Hey, what's going on, Tasty fans? It's John once again, and I got another review for you. So for the first time in Tasty Squad history, I'm actually going to review a game that I'm not going to be too fond of. And that game is Shadow Warrior. Now, let me just reiterate, I don't think it's a bad game, but it's also not very good. And I'll explain why here in this review. So without any further ado, let's get started. Now I know I say all the time that graphics don't make a game, and that's because they don't, but I can't deny that Shadow Warrior just doesn't have the best looking graphics out there. In all honesty, they're fine, for a PS3 game, but as a current gen title, it just does not hold up whatsoever. Again, they're not bad, they just leave so much to be desired. And as I'm writing this right now, nothing about the graphics pops out to me, which is not a good sign. I will give it credit though, the levels are varied, and each one does have a nice different look to it and a nice change of pace. There's villages, caves, cities, shipyards, and even the Shadow Realm. Now all the levels look fine graphically, and the environments really do add to different varied, places you go, and it does change up the pace of the game. However, where the levels fail look-wise is the lighting. The lighting is terrible. It's not used very well, it's not used in a unique way, everything just looks dark all the damn time. Graphically, the game is passable, and only just barely, meaning you can make out what things are supposed to be, but they do nothing to awe you or amaze you. You're just like, yep, that's a dude. That's pretty much it. That's the whole problem, is nothing seems inspired. I didn't know there could be a genericism to evil demons in a Shadow Samurai type game, but somehow Shadow Warrior nailed that. So overall, graphically, Shadow Warrior doesn't look bad, it doesn't look good, and it's just kind of bland. It's literally the epitome of and that's its graphics. Moving on to sound. I am glad to say, when it comes to audio, Shadow Warrior fucking nails it. All of the sound effects really help add to the game's overall immersion. I'm not sure how they did it, but they somehow perfectly capture what it sounds like for demons to be sliced into thousands of pieces. You know the noise I'm talking about, though. Yeah, Shadow Warrior fucking nails that sound, and you'll hear it a bunch, and it never gets old. But it's not just that, everything audio-wise sounds great. The way the sword clings against things, how the guns sound when they're fired. The music, oh man. Actually, the music's okay. It's not amazing, but it's fine. It works. It definitely has the right feel to it. Just when I think of a game like this, I think back to the Doom soundtrack and just how amazingly badass that is, but I'm not going to judge a game based on another game's qualities. So the music in Shadow Warrior is also very good, and it definitely goes with the mood. The sound effects from the enemies, the growls, the snarls, the weird demon creature sounds, all of that is done very well, and they do sound like otherworldly creatures. Also, the voice acting is done pretty well. You have, Lo Wang, he's kind of a cocky jerk. He does just fine. Other characters in the games, everything is just fine. Not perfect, not great, but enough to keep you invested. Now, all the sound effects in the game, badass, and when it comes to audio, Shadow Warrior did a damn good job, so good for them. Now let's move on to story. His name is Lo Wang, and he goes bang bang. In Shadow Warrior, you guessed it, you play as a mercenary named Lo Wang, and your objective is to track down the legendary sword known as the Nobutsuru Kage. And yes, I know I probably butchered that name, but hey, I tried the best I can, so please be merciful, internet. Even though I know you can't be. Once you finally track down the sword, you're about to take it from this dude when all of a sudden, holy shit, a demon invasion begins, and that's when shit really hits the fan. All this craziness forces you to team up with a demon named, oh man, what was his name? Okay, I'm gonna level with you here, Tasty fans. I honestly cannot remember his name. So I'm just gonna call him White Mask Guy because he has a white mask. So White Mask Guy informs you that you will need all three parts of the Nobutsuru Kage to defeat the head demon, whose name I also can't remember. That's not a really good sign that I can't even remember two characters' names. Anyway, getting off topic, you need to collect all three parts to defeat the main bad guys. Also, there's this subplot that White Mask has lost his memory, and you see glimpses of it and through flashbacks, blah blah blah, not caring. However, after the second flashback, you can plainly tell that Whiteface is lying, and he's just getting you to do his bidding, like the cheeky bastard he is. Now, I don't know if that part about doing his bidding is 100% true, because honestly, I didn't finish the game, so I can't say exactly what happens, but I would put my money on that White Mask guy betrays you and gets you to do his bidding like the cheeky bastard he is. So in all honesty, the story is a little boring and cliche, so much so that I didn't even want to finish the game. The story didn't keep me invested, and that's just not a good sign. Especially for a player like me, because story and gameplay are my number 1 and 2, and if you don't got one of those, I'm rarely ever gonna complete your game if you don't have at least one. But honestly, the reason I was here was the gameplay, so without any further ado, let's get started with it. This is Shadow Warriors gameplay. The gameplay in Shadow Warrior is its best and worst aspect. When the game first started, I was really enjoying hacking and slashing through enemies by the thousands. There's just something so satisfying about slicing those bastards into millions of pieces. But as the game progresses, you start to get other weapons like guns, flamethrowers, and crossbows. And see, it's the firearms that were really hit and miss. Some of them are awesome and really useful in combat, like the revolver and the SMG, but pretty much every other gun after that just seems to be fucking worthless. The later weapons in the game just don't seem to do as much damage as the first 2 guns you get, which again are the revolver and the SMG. Thanks to White Mask douchebag, you also have the ability to gain powers. Now the powers are fun to look at, but don't really help out at all. At all. Okay, now the powers, the healing ability and the shield abilities are fine and they do what they're supposed to, but it's really just the offensive powers that piss me off. Because they only slightly delay enemies, it seems, and don't really actually do anything to help. The knockdown ability just knocks down enemies for a free hit or 2. There's also a power that suspends enemies in midair for a few seconds for a couple of free hits. See, both abilities only basically allow for a cheap shot, and that's it. That's as good as the powers go. And that's fine, yay, a good cheap shot. But the enemies that you need to use the powers on to have cheap shots on are strong enough to resist the damn powers, so the whole system of powers ends up becoming redundant, and it really just grinds my fucking gears. Besides powers, however, you are able to obtain new sword abilities, which are actually pretty fucking sweet, and those are actually better than the powers in the game. To use your powers or your sword abilities, you need to move the analog stick in a certain direction, then press either L2 for the powers or R2 for the sword abilities. Now, it's simple enough, but in the heat of battle, when you're trying not to die and you're having to run away and every moment you need exact precision, it just starts to piss you off because these damn things fail 80% of the time. Just imagine you're sitting there doing a really hard battle. All you're trying to do is do this one move that could really change the tide of things, but because you didn't hit up, and you hit up and slightly to the left up, you're not going to do the ability, or you're going to do something completely other than what you wanted to do. That is bullshit. There's also upgrades to your sword moves and your powers, and also your weapons. Each of the 3 requires a different item to upgrade them. Weapons require money, new powers require crystals, and sword moves require karma. Now the money and crystals can be found throughout each level, but karma is this game's XP, so you can pretty much gain it for any combat engagement that you have. In fact, I like that karma's the only one that seems to work right, because the better you do, the more XP you get, the cooler moves you can buy. Simple enough. However, it's the money and the crystals that seem to kind of piss me off. Not that I hate looking for items to gain upgrades, but I just hate the fact of feeling like I have to go scour these huge levels just for a chance to buy one new upgrade. It's fucking ridiculous. I hate shit like that. I hate because I didn't want to explore for 97 hours. I can't get every ability the game has to offer. I guess that's just that hack and slash player in me that if I fight good enough, I should be able to get whatever I want. But that's not the case here. So closing thoughts on gameplay. While the game started out strong, But as it progressed, enemies stopped being a good challenge and just started becoming fucking bullet sponges. It just felt like there was no good way to fight any of the tougher enemies, and each combat encounter just felt like a test of endurance, and not the good kind, which took a lot of fun out of the game. Not only that, but the levels started to go on forever. It's not a good sign when I'm sitting there thinking, hopefully this level's over soon, hopefully this level's over soon. And eventually that's where Shadow Warrior brought me to its end. I was hoping the game would be over soon, so I ended it. And I'm sorry guys, I didn't bring myself to finish this game, but I'm just ready to move on to something better and that I enjoy more. I know, I'm a terrible gamer not finishing a game and all. But seriously, what gamer amongst us hasn't not ever finished a game? Is there one out there? I'll wait. Nah, I'm just kidding, but anyway. Shadow Warrior just began to drag on to me. I wasn't having fun with the game anymore, and I was just ready to move on. That way I can start on the next game and start on my next review and bring you guys some more glorious entertainment. Anyways, my final score for Shadow Warrior is a 5 out of 10. The game started off strong and I was really enjoying it, but as time went on I just found myself getting less and less immersed in the experience and just wanting it to be over. Again everyone, thank you so much for coming out and watching the video. Be sure to hit that like button if you think it deserves it, and also maybe even subscribe to ensure that you stay up to date on all Tasty Squad gaming content. And be sure to follow us on all our social medias. Anyways everyone, I'm John, it's been awesome as always, and of course, stay tasty.